shoes, and we want to say to the Lord today, glory, glory, hallelujah, God Almighty, you are faithful to the end.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, God Almighty, you are faithful.
Say it again.
Glory, glory, hallelujah,
God Almighty.
God Almighty, you are faithful to the end.
You have all power and all wisdom. You have all riches. You reign in majesty, created all things, and you were
King of the floods and the Lord of
eternal God,
eternal God and the great
seated in heaven.
seated in heaven, but ruling the earth. You have all power
And all wisdom.
and all wisdom. You have all riches.
You reign in majesty.
Reign in majesty, created all things, and you
King of the flood,
King of the floods and the Lord
eternal God,
eternal God and the great
seated in heaven. Glory, glory, hallelujah, God Almighty, you are faithful. Hallelujah, God Almighty, you are faithful. Second verse. Changes not, and eternal, author of salvation, King of the flood, eternal God, seated in heaven, King of the flood, eternal God, seated in heaven, King of the flood, eternal God, seated in heaven, ruling the earth, eternal God, seated in heaven, ruling the earth, King of the flood, eternal God, he's seated in heaven, above everything, King of the flood, eternal God, he is seated in heaven, King of the flood. Clap those hands. Eternal God. Do I have some praises in this place? Come on, somebody, put your hands together. Give God a praise. You're gonna put a dance on your feet right about now. Nothing holds you when you praise God like you're doing right about now. You can give him a dance. Has he been faithful? Has he been? You have been. You have been. Oh, he is faithful. He is faithful. Somebody say, God is faithful. God is faithful. Let's praise him with every instrument. Let everything that has breath give glory to God. Clap your hands, all you people, and shout unto God with the voice of triumph. Let the drums, let the trumpets, let the sound of the cymbals. Oh, praise God. Faithful. We've got this Caribbean beat and we want you to join us to praise the Lord. So put on your dancing shoes and we want to say to the Lord today, glory, glory, hallelujah, God Almighty, you are faithful to the end.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, God Almighty, you are faithful.
Say it again.
Glory, glory, hallelujah,
God Almighty.
God Almighty, you are faithful to the end.
You have all power and all wisdom. You have all riches. majesty, created all things, and you were
King of the first and the Lord of
eternal God,
eternal God and the great I am.
seated in heaven.
Seated in heaven, but ruling the earth. You have all power
And all wisdom,
and all wisdom. You have all
you
riches.
reign in majesty,
In majesty, created all things, and you
King of the flood,
King of the first and the Lord
eternal God,
eternal God and the great I am.
seated in heaven.
Seated in heaven, but ruling the earth.
Glory, glory,
Glory, glory,
hallelujah,
hallelujah.
Almighty,
God Almighty,
you are faithful,
are faithful to the end. Glory, glory,
hallelujah,
hallelujah.
God Almighty,
God Almighty,
you are faithful.
are faithful to the end.
Second verse,
Your word is true,
changes not
changes not. You are a
and eternal,
eternal
of salvation,
salvation. When you feast and
King of the flood, eternal God, seated in heaven, King of the flood. I'm your host, J Atemo. How are you doing? Sorry we're coming in a bit late, but of course it's going to be good. So you won't need to worry about the little time that we have lost in there. Good to see each and every one of you who's joining us already. There is Gloria Minor, Faith Musilu, Faith Vata Musilu, saying it's good to see Frank Molla over there. Faith seems to know everybody. Edith Orego tuned in as well. Flora Nyla, Betty Ludio, got, who's that again? There is Kelvin Ongori. I've got Jordana Sadja watching from Qatar, Doha. Simu Gofwa, that is from Texas. Leah Holler watching from Canada. And it's good to see each and every one of you who is just here. Yes, Simu Gofwa saying from KT, Texas. Good to see you, together with all the people who are coming on board as well. Mario Wairegi. Kabibi Kyoko watching from Mombasa, Chilton Vidolo, Pastor Aaron Prince, Samuel Omonde Gino, he was one of our panelists last week. Doc, it's good to see you. I know you want to hear what Dr. Lindsay is saying over here. Amazing conversations that have been going on online. Winston Churchill as well, and every one of you that is just joining. We appreciate you, Princess and Kageha. Well, today we're talking about living single. And we just want to have a conversation. I have done my best not to preempt this conversation so that I don't quite direct it because I've got amazing people whom you all were ready to hear from. I've got to my father's right, Grace Ekirapa. Good to see you.
Thank you.
She's a TV host. Most of you would know her, a TV host, and we're privileged to have her over here. Frank Molla, the gentleman in the middle of the ladies today, co-hosting a show called Being 40, a very interesting show to watch. It's on YouTube. Of course, he'll talk about it a bit more. And then Dr. Lindsay, we had her here last week, and she was a darling to many of us, and we are so glad to have them. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
to
for
have
having
each and
us.
every one of you. Yeah.
Thank you for having
yeah.
us.
Frank, you're the gentleman. Normally we say, ladies first. So you want me to let the ladies go? All right. Dr. Lindsay, let me start with you. Just introduce yourself to people who may not know you. Or they're watching you for the first time. Yeah.
All right, so hello everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dr. Lindsay. I am an obstetrician gynecologist resident. I am the convener of the Kenya Medical Association Young Doctors Network. I am the co-convener of the Kenya Medical Association National Social Responsibility and Welfare Committee. And I am so glad to be here. This is such a pet subject. I have been single longer than perhaps, I don't know whether I'll ever be married, but yeah, I'm very single. So thank you so much, Rev, for having me.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about just what, as you do your introduction, you're involved in so much. And we're going to talk about that because Did you get involved in all of that because you're single? Do you think if you had a relationship, it would have interfered with your career path? And so, because before we came on here, there was a conversation going on that sometimes when ladies are single, then they do more career-wise. And we'll talk about that when we get on. All right. Let me have the other lady as well. Grace, it's good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here again.
All right.
Not on the show, in the this venue.
Frank, I need you to introduce yourself for a while. And you know now, you're the gentleman. You're going to be under pressure. Because I can tell you today, when you talk about living single, most of the people who are watching are the ladies. And when they hear that gentleman, that fine dark gentleman in there, he's single. All right.
All right, so Frank Molla is my name. Living single, it's quite an interesting topic. I mean, when you talk about that gentleman probably being single and all that, I look at single in two different facets.
Right.
There is single for marriage itself, and there's just single if you're married, you don't have another partner itself, and there's single where you're not married yet, and there is single, you're in a marriage, but at the same time, you don't have somebody else. So there's single in two ways, the way I'm looking at it.
Okay.
But again, Frank Molla is my name, co-host of the show Being 40. Being 40 is all about going back to our 20s, our 30s, and you're talking about some of the things that somebody could have told us when we were younger. Because as you grow older, we realize it's not about the age, it's about the experience. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you, Daktari, for inviting me, and to Chris as well.
Yeah, but okay, what are some of the things, so far as you run the show, what are some of the things now in your 40s that you know different from when you were in your 20s?
It's interesting because if I look at my 20s and the time we were, I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of mentors. The mentorship conversation was not so much there. The counseling conversation was not so much there, right? So you had to figure out a lot of things by yourself. The one thing that I appreciate now that I crossed over 40 is I never rushed into really, bringing somebody into my life permanently and getting into a marriage, because I realized being single or living single, you must have deliberate, intentional, conscious decision before you bring somebody in. So there were a number of things, from investments, from relationships, from purpose, that I sit back and I say, if somebody told me at 22 and I started working, I could start getting a mortgage, it would mean I would have almost 20 plus years to pay. At 40, I only have 15 years if my employer allows me to go up to 55. So there were a number of things that we were unpacking. Quite interesting,
But Grace, you were in the public, you are there. You meet a lot of people. You have these conversations a lot with different people. You mentor a lot of girls as well. At the point when girls are mostly between 18 and 25, they begin to become so aware of the element that they need to be in relationships.
Yes.
Is that pressure something from the society, or is it from the inward?
I think it's both.
It's both?
Having gone through it myself, only that my background was different, so I ended up on the safe side, I'd call it, because I believe God protected and preserved me from a very young age. I would have probably been the worst. Because I grew up in a very, when I lost my mom, my dad sort of like went into his own cocoon. And so the aspect of having a man in your life, or in my life, was like a no-no. So that kept me, from exploring with men. However, and as a psychologist, this is one thing that I have seen. Many people who've gone through such a background, most of the time would be pushed to now go into the arms of a man, because believe me, there are so many men who want to wish you, to show you that they have a shoulder wide enough for you to lean on, and they want to tell you all the nice things. And one thing about people who manipulate is that they look at the point of weakness and they exploit it. They show you that they're providing something that you need, while in essence what they're doing is really exploiting your weakness. And so I've seen so many girls go through that. Now that you said I mentor girls, I've seen many of the ladies that I mentor transition into something like that because they were exploring what they didn't have. I didn't have a father growing up, so I want to know what it feels to have a man who will protect me, the security that comes with having a man in your life.
Right.
And so from that tender age, like you said, they're beginning to realize so many things that are there. They realize, I need somebody to tell me I love you.
Right.
I need somebody to tell me you're beautiful. I need somebody to tell me that you're mine.
Yeah.
Place of ownership.
Right.
And so a man is always ready to tell you that.
Even when he
They're
doesn't
always
mean
ready. Even when he doesn't. Most of the times they don't mean it. Because, you know, a guy at 18, what do you know? You know, you've just been introduced to women. I'm sorry, but it's it's what happens. And so I found, I mean, even with the ladies that I'm mentoring, one of the things they will tell me is, he told me he loved me. I didn't hear that from anyone. I grew up with a single mom. So there was no man to tell me I love you. So the man told me he loved me and he got me.
Right.
You know, when I was growing up, they used to lie to us and tell us, I'll buy you fish and chips. Nowadays, it's not fish and chips. Nowadays, is, I don't know, movies, is, you know, name it, bags. And that's why we have the aspect of sugar daddies, if you allow me to bring it, because a sugar daddy knows what you need. They probably have a child your age, so they know the needs of a young girl. They know you need a nice bag, you need a good vacation, you need a good home, you need money in your pocket, and so that's what they give you. And they know if you didn't grow up with it, that's what you need. And girls at that point are really showing off. So I want you to know that I'm doing okay.
Okay.
And if this man gives me that, then I'm going to go with that. So did I say a lot? To maybe summarize, I'd say there's pressure from the society,
Right.
but a lot of the pressure comes from inside, because if I don't have that void on the inside, society will not pressure
Will
me.
not put it on you.
Yeah, it won't.
Yeah.
It won't.
Dr. Lyndzie, you know, at some point, have you faced that where, I know you're in school again right now, have you faced that where people feel like you've studied enough, you now need a man? Like this singlehood is nearly stigmatized, like something is wrong. You know, you come to, if you go to church, they're preaching against it. So if you're still single, by this time next year, you will be married, you know, and all of that. Does that place a stigma? And have you faced that kind of pressure as well, where you, does the feeling like you'll always go to school, you need to settle down? Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, for me, you know, I'm very candid. I say things as they are. So first of all, I call them Udaku Nation. So I am addressing Udaku Nation right now. If you're watching me, if whatever I say, if you tick the box, you are Udaku Nation. We understand each other. So number one Udaku Nation are your aunties. Those aunties that know your life more than you. In fact, they are the president of your life. Yeah, right. They know that you will you'll be born. They come. I mean, if you're coming from my community, they come. They do that whole swing of the child. You'll go to primary, go to high school. After your campus, they just give you, I think, 2 years.
All right.
I think by the time you're clearing campus, you're 22, 23, 24.
Right.
So they just give you 2 years, an allowance of only 2 years to have dated, courted, and gotten married.
Right.
By 27, if you're not married, they start telling you, Kukona shida, what is happening?
Right.
What is happening? Are you not meeting people at your place of work or whatever? So I mean, pressure is there. And okay, well, perhaps there's some people who've not faced it, but I have faced it myself. But I think I'm too bold.
Okay.
And I tell you to your face, I am so sorry, you're not the God of my life.
Right.
Only God holds the blueprint of my life.
All right.
Yeah. So I mean, I will tell you to your face. So whether you're an auntie, a grandmother, whoever you are, I will tell you.
But
to
have
your
you ever second guessed yourself?
Of course, Percy, of course. I mean, I was not born bold. Yeah? I had to get this thick skin because I realized out there nobody will bembeleza you.
Right.
You only have one mother. Out there nobody's your mother. Right. So I had to get. I mean, everybody has. I mean, you have to be. You actually get the thick skin.
Okay.
So of course, when I was 20, first of all, I always had the Cinderella dream.
All right.
And this was introduced to us as young as we are 7.
Yep.
I mean, we've watched Cinderella, the cartoon. We've watched Rapunzel with her long hair. We've watched, what was this thing and the Beast? What was it called?
Beauty and the
Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
Yeah, these are things that we were introduced to when we were younger.
While Frank and myself were out there, we're playing.
You guys are playing
guns, all of
football.
this kind of
Yeah?
stuff. We have no idea.
No idea. Eh? So this girl is just being pumped up with this idea of, first of all, there's this game. It used to be called Cha Mama, Cha Baba.
Yeah.
You know, the guy, I don't know what they were doing. How were you playing the game? Because us guys used to play with food. Like
Right.
And babies,
yeah?
dolls and
Yeah,
dolls
and dolls and you're nurturing and whatever. What would the guy do in the Cha Baba?
We'd wait for the food.
Oh, you wait for the food.
Once it's ready, then we just begin.
By the way, Frank, just talking about this, are we prepared as men now, as a man, do we ever prepare for relationships? Is it easier for men to stay single because we never had all of this preparation and all of these fantasies and dreams? Is it easier?
It's a good question. I think I look at it from the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s. And she raised the point when she talked about, 18 and, all these things about guys, just sitting back and wondering, are you ready? I mean, somebody's buying you fish and chips then, right? And you're wondering what happens. A lot of that, in my view, is driven by socialization. There's a lot of background to that. First of all, is appreciating each and every person. Where are you coming from and where are you going, right? Now, if you bring it to your question, I think as men age, there is a feeling that we are more advantage side because they say the ladies, the
biological
clock is ticking very fast. So at 40, somebody sit back and say, well, Frank, you can still marry somebody who's 25.
That's
or,
true.
But for a lady who's 40, then the conversation is more, if Frank tries to approach a lady who's 40, one, I'll have to look at her, I'm like, she's been independent for all this time. Am I going to fit in? And then that lady who's 40 as well will be looking at you like, wait a minute, the guy I had before me was just eating my money. Are you coming for that purpose? So I think as we age, it becomes easier for guys compared to the ladies.
All right.
But I also want to take it back, and probably this is just talking to the real men, not just men, because there's a difference, right? If you take it back to creation, and probably you'll also keep me honest on this, is whereby God created Adam single.
Right.
Adam was single.
Right.
All right? And when God created Adam and then Eve came on board, he created a man and a wife.
Right.
A man and a woman, not a husband and a wife.
All right.
So when we talk about being single, even as men, sometimes we need to borrow from the good books.
Right.
What does a good book tell us? As a man, you're told you're the foundation.
Okay.
If I look at the church where we are, we cannot see what foundation is holding us. So as a man, as a real man,
Right.
I need to be the foundation, right? And everybody else sits on top of me. So as we get to grow, a real man, ideally what should happen is provide, prophesy, protect, be a priest and everything else.
Right.
But admittedly, what's happening is we are getting to conform with the societies and ways things are moving.
Okay.
To my ladies on my right and to my left, there's a lot of peer pressure.
Yeah.
You're getting to 30. What are you waiting for? You don't have a child. You have a certain circle of friends who influence what you want to do. And eventually you end up rushing into the man she was talking about. And of course, he's not a real man. He's going to bring you in. So I think for men, as we age, we tend to almost have more benefits.
Right.
But also on the flip side, when you say that it's only ladies who go through certain things, and she talked about sugar daddies, we have Ben 10s. We have ladies who are growing and they're sitting back and saying, I need a guy from university. I need some, and these things are
Energy.
happening. So, and it's because of energy, like she said.
blood,
because so the conversation is also more, how do we just look at both sides and say, where did we go wrong? Where are we going wrong? And where should this conversation start? And to close to that, I think being single is not a bad thing.
All right.
Being single, even in the Bible, it is confirmed. We have a number of people who are single. But for men, to your question, as we age, we tend to be more advantageous compared to the women.
That's true.
You know, you mentioned something about when you meet a woman at 40, you're thinking she has been independent. Grace, is there anything like independent woman? this term that men use a lot
Yes.
to run away from some kind of ladies? Is there anything like independent woman?
I think there is. When it comes to accomplishments, you know, when she mentioned who she is and what she does, you asked her something. Are you able to do all this because you're single?
Right.
I know a very well-renowned director, movie director, who actually is single by choice because he said, if I get married, I will be derailed in my life. I won't escalate to what I want. And to answer your question, yes, there are independent women. And I think at some point they deliberately take themselves there. Why? Because, and the pressure is real. When you get to, like he said, 30 or 27, 28, 30, 35, even biologically, the woman is, you know, at threat
That's
of
true.
getting a child. And so it's not only the aunties and the Udaku nation which would remind you, but also your biological clock. And so, to
And the
some
weddings
extent,
you attend.
Oh my God.
Yes. First of all, I don't like weddings. Let me just mention that.
Good.
I don't
know
like
why. I don't know why I see ladies get depressed around weddings.
And they still go. I don't
And
know
they
why
still
they
go
still
up to
go.
the
Sit in
celebration.
your house.
Sit in your house. Watch Netflix.
Watch it, please. Go
That's peer
to
pressure.
swim or something. Just get your mind off it. And I remember I was bashed for saying I'm not going to someone's wedding, and they said, "Oh, that's mean." I said, "No, it's not mean. I'm just protecting myself."
That's
All right.
true.
I just honestly didn't want to go because I knew if I left there, I'd be thinking, what dress should I wear to my wedding? And it's pressure,
Okay.
you know? And so now when the women get to that place where they feel like there's no man who's coming anytime soon, now we have an option of IVF, the woman will be like, I'm making my own money. I don't need a man, I'll have a child. And to be honest, some women get there. Probably I've had a thought, but I didn't act on it. But you get there because you're like, okay, so there are no men at all. So what next?
Yeah, what do you do?
And then the men now look at us and
There are no
say,
men at all.
no, but you see the fear of, oh, she drives her own car. Somebody told me if you start driving, you're a threat. I said, okay. Because the mentality around it is if I'm driving my own car, which is better than yours, then I intimidate you, which is not true. Submission comes whether there's material issues or things or not. But to be honest, I think psychologically the woman starts to build a wall.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
And she's like, okay, now I'm at 40, Grace, be honest with yourself. The Ben 10s will come to take the money.
Okay.
But they will, very few will want to, you know, settle down because they're still exploring with their own
That's
age.
true.
So, and the men who are supposed to come after me fear me. So, hey, I'm going to block, I'm going to get the child through IVF, or maybe get a child and never tell the man I was pregnant, raise my own kid, and that's it. That's what we call an independent woman.
Dr. Lindsay, on your social media, which is one of the most volatile social media platforms, you know, you've got this thing of people who keep on inboxing you.
Oh
right?
my God.
Grace was talking about, you see, your accomplishments. When you talk about that, it's very easy for someone to get intimidated. But then you still have guys who come to your inbox and they will say, hi, hi, hi. So what kind of people are those who come in there?
I have a concussion of everybody.
All right.
Pasi.
Yeah.
Kuna pastors huko ndani, kuko na kila mtu. You know, you see, on my social media, I will say anything because I will be religious. I will talk Christianese. Then I will talk about, sexology. Then I will
Right.
talk about medicine. I mean, so it will attract different people.
Right.
So there are pastors huko ndani, kuko na Ben 10, as Frank said. There's all kinds of people. So I mean, first of all, even how you write the hi, I already know what age you are. I mean, ukiniandikia HAEEE, hi, guys. I already know what kind of age you are. But anyway, I wanted to say something that Grace, talked about. She brought in an aspect of the independent woman and the IVF being an option. So biologically, actually, after the age of 35, for most women, okay, with medicine, we don't say all, because you can never be absolute, yeah? There's always those people who will, just defy the odds medically. But after 35, something we call the ovarian reserve actually gets depleted after 35. Because when a girl is born, or rather when a baby girl is in the uterus, they are born with 700 to 1 million eggs. By the time the baby is getting born, now you are at 700,000 eggs for your lifetime.
Right.
And you will be dropping an egg every single month until you get to 45, 48, where you're getting to your menopause. So I mean, after 35, if you are in the normal distribution curve where you get menopause at 45, then you just have 10 years to go. So you're 35, ovarian reserve is going down. There's no guy. You're a Christian, so you do not want to do this whole be a single mom.
And actually, you know, Dr. Samuel is asking here, would you ask the advocates of being single, what's their experience of sexual purity in this? So you might just as
Also
well just
answer that as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hello, Dr. Samuel. Very nice to hear from you. Yes, and thank you for watching. So I was just, I was just adding on to what Grace was saying. In terms of the ovarian reserve, of course, yes, the biological clock will tick, and it has been proven. We have done studies far and wide about it, so it is actually the truth. I personally have considered freezing my eggs, because I was like, 35 is over here, like, it's very close. So I was like, okay, I can actually go to a fertility center. I mean, true story. Yeah. I can admit myself to a fertility center, tell the fertility specialist, harvest at least 10 nice eggs, freeze them for me, I'll come for them when I get good sperm. Yeah, I say sperm because I do not know. I don't know where this person is playing.
But that is not, would that work for ordinary guys? Wouldn't that be costly?
Of course, it's very costly. I mean,
it's expensive.
It's expensive.
Very expensive.
But again, also, it was a wishful thinking,
Okay.
She also said something that she had thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway.
If you're motivated, you'll save.
Yeah, if you're motivated. I mean, you're like,
You will save for it.
you cannot just be born, live. Yeah, wanasemanga
Nothing is remembered of
yeah, yeah. Alizaliwa, akazurura, akakufa.
But Frank, I want to come to you with
You're
this.
sick.
Because these guys want to know, is it possible for a man to remain single and to stay pure? I don't know whether that's...
Purity, I think.
Especially on the men.
I will leave it for him. I think it's possible for anyone to be single but not to be alone,
Okay.
right?
Okay. All right. Break that down.
I know.
No, I mean, I'm just coming from the point of, I'll take you guys back. By the time you're leaving your house, where there's a lot of security, and you're running towards this man, right?
Yeah.
You see, at home you are not alone, but you are single. You are
Right.
not chased,
Right.
but you made a decision that I want to leave
Okay.
and go this direction. So when you leave and you become single and you're alone, you're more or less exposed to a lot of things.
Okay.
But by the time you're leaving your biological home or whichever place you call where you felt safe, then you start being exposed to other things of people who don't have a history of a track record of who you are.
Right.
So you start discovering things. So I think you can be single, but it's very risky to be alone at the same time.
Okay.
Right? From that perspective. I was just writing some notes when, they were speaking. Before I answered the doctor as well.
Right.
It's unfortunate that we live in a society where we measure success using material things.
All right.
Right? And that's where, when I'll see her driving a certain car, automatically, as a man, my default is, no, there,
Out of my
I
league.
can manage
out
that.
of my league.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's because we've let the society have a stereotype is success is measured based on what you have, success is measured on where you live, and a number of things.
Yeah.
And in turn, what that does is, even if a man would approach her, the intention would not be the right intention, which ideally should be the case. But also at the same time, what usually happens is, to my fellow men, right? What I always say is, when you go out, and I'm saying this because I'm 40, and I made mistakes.
Right.
I'm one of the people who would sit back, and if I would meet and she's driving a better car than mine, be like, man, that one is out of my league.
Right.
But you see, right now, I will sit back and I tell myself, we have met. So what is this thing that we've gone out, and then I go back to my boys and I tell them, that lady is damn costly, she's drinking expensive wine, she's a gold digger and all that stuff. What I can say now, being 40, is she is not in your league.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. You can't mix
So there are
it.
actually people who are not in your league?
Yes, she's not in your lane.
All
And
right.
this is why I'm saying that.
It's a reality?
It's
Yeah.
for
Accept
me,
it. The sooner you
I'm
accept it,
saying
the
it
better.
because
All right.
I would sit back and I say at 20s and all through my 20s, I would see even if we are equals, I would look at her and I'm like, man, this lady's drinking. I'm the one who's taking her out. But when I go back to the boys, I'm like, gosh, that lady's drinking, man. There's another man who's going to meet that lady. He will not complain.
Okay.
It's because I'm playing in a lane that is not mine.
All right.
I need to go back and adjust myself, reevaluate myself, and when I'm ready for it, I need to be there, right? So the question that the doctor also asked, what did he ask again? I think I
Is
wrote
it possible
somewhere.
to stay
stay
single,
pure.
to stay pure?
Is it possible to stay single and pure? So pure, I leave it to him. Single, it is very possible. And Dr. I'll take you back to the scriptures, and this is both the Bible and the Quran. The Bible is very deliberate about this. Paul talks about this all the time. Jesus was single, you know that, we all know that. Paul was single, and Paul specifically sat back and said that he's single because he's going to serve, right? And keep me honest, Pastor. But at the same time, he said, I welcome you to come. But I appreciate the fact that we all have different gifts at the same time.
Right.
So, because you might have a different gift, if you can't come, it's fine. But if the passions of this earth are going to make you sin, then go ahead and do what?
Get married.
And get married,
Right.
right? So, even the Bible acknowledges that being single is okay, being married is okay. But the question I would push back to Dr. As a man is, I'm not saying that you should be single. I'm saying that even a marriage in itself is, so I'll take it back. Think of a divorce.
All right.
A divorce only happens from people who are married.
Yeah.
People who are married is a formation of two individuals. Two individuals are two single people who came together. So you need to start from being single for you to make a deliberate decision into moving that direction. It's your choice to decide how long you can be single or how short it can be. But anything that you have to do, Daktari, it starts from you being single. I'm 40. The assumption is I'm single, which is a good assumption. I believe in being private and letting success speak for itself. But in terms of being pure doctor, it's a personal choice that you need to make because we have all these things that we navigate
But
through.
let me just
but
ask
you
you.
can't be single.
Let me just ask you, Frank. Even as you talk about decisions that somebody needs to make,
Yes.
what are some of those considerations that you think somebody needs to make that would determine how long? You know, because we've talked about the elements of pressure.
Yes.
If I am making the decision for myself, I'm sitting over here, I want to determine whether I'm going to go into a relationship or not.
Yeah.
Of course, off the show, off the set, Dr. Lyndzie gave her own story where she made a deliberate decision to go a certain direction for a certain time. But what are some of these things that somebody can, just consider as factors that are valid?
Okay, good question. And it brings me to a conversation which I was having with a very good friend of mine. She's called Maya. She's here with us. There's something I call a vision board.
Okay.
All right? And a vision board for me as a man is I sit back and I tell myself, where do I want to be in the next, and this is before even I decide if I want to date or not. Where do I want to be in the next 5, 10, 15 or 20 years, right?
Right.
So some of the things you need to ask yourself, as Frank, I'll sit back and tell myself, my vision board is anchored around certain things. The top and the middle one is prayer. Around prayer, I would want to have all these things around prayer and everything else. When you're going out to look for somebody, I would advise you, look at your vision board.
Okay.
What is your vision board telling you? The lady who's coming into your life, if she's not aligned to your vision, my friends, you're going to have problems ahead.
Alright.
But vision board is a personal thing. You have to define it by yourself.
Okay.
So, and it's the same way when somebody says, a man goes and gets a lady who the ribs are not compatible, and then yet you complain. I think you're the one who told me this line some time back. And so I think once we go back to our space, do your vision board. What do you want? Because we all want different things in life.
Right.
then any lady who's coming, and even to the ladies, whoever is coming to your life, try as much as you can and see who is aligning closer to that vision board. It might not be 100%.
Right.
But when you go into that institution of dating and marriage, you'll not have 80% problems. You might have 80% success, and you are on 20.
I feel like I'm in class. I want to raise my hand. I'd like to add to this. I feel like we haven't touched on the issue of being single and pure. A vision board is important, Frank, but being a Christian and being pure is difficult. It is hard. I don't know if I can emphasize this enough.
Please emphasize that.
It is very difficult. It is very difficult. I remember when I was a staunch Christian who was ignorant, I used to condemn
You're
everyone.
still a staunch Christian.
I'm a
You're
good
just
Christian.
not-
I'm informed now. Yes.
Yeah, you're just not ignorant, but you're still a staunch Christian.
No, I am informed. I remember when I was an ignorant Christian, let me put it that way. I was very good and very fast in condemning sin. I remember when my firstborn sister came and told me she was pregnant. She was 20, just slightly above 21. I was very upset. I remember running out of the house and, I was cussing her and telling her, why would you get into this? You know better. Until now, I experienced that with more than one person. Like, I started, mentoring girls, and now I began to understand what it meant to actually be under such kind of pressure. And I honestly now went back and I said, God, forgive me for judging. I was able to keep pure, but it's not because of my own energy and of my own strength. It was because of the grace of God.
Right.
And it's because of the grounding that I had. And then it happened that I got people who actually went through rape. And psychologically, you understand when someone has gone through rape in their childhood. First of all, when you rape a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, this person is not introduced to sex, but you're stimulating something.
Okay.
So children who've been molested over years are now becoming sexually active, not because they want, not because they're exploring, but because there's a part of their body that has been introduced to something way faster than they should have been. So we are quick to judge and call them whores, but we are not quick to find out what exactly led to that.
Okay.
And so now I began to understand that the human body can be stimulated with so many things. Unfortunately, the girls. And one thing I said, I think you said, you talked about when you said men can be single. I think men can stand, we think that men can be in sexual relationships without being connected. I don't know if that's true. Without being attached. They say you can jump from one to the next. I don't know how true that is, I'm
So
not a man.
what the saying is, let me talk about the saying. What is out there is, men are physical beings, ladies are emotional beings.
Yes, we
So
are
for a
more
man
touched.
to get into a sexual relationship with a lady, he doesn't need to be connected emotionally.
Yes.
For the lady to be,
Yes.
there is already emotions connecting.
Thank
So
you.
yes, a man can be physical and there's no feelings.
And then that brings me to my next point. It's hard to be single and pure, but it's workable when you think about this for the woman. A woman will value the sexual relationships. A man will not, most of the time.
Okay.
And so, unfortunately, something has been trending. I don't know if you guys saw it, the boys' club and stuff. Unfortunately, I don't know much about it, but I saw it. And you see, there's one thing about men. I remember being told as a kid, men will gloat over how many women they've slept with.
That's true.
It's like at least you're ticking. And it's unfortunate for the woman to find out that I was only part of a list. You know?
A statistic.
And a statistic. And so what I keep telling my girls is, be selfish with your items. You can't have your cookie in everybody's jar. You know, yes, you have the feelings, you have the it's burning, go take a shower, run, go to the gym. This is something that is proven. You know, it says that there's a certain energy that comes when you're sexually, aroused, but there are other ways of releasing that energy. And believe you me, if you are selfish and you are really cautious and disciplined about whose jar you want your cookie in, you will keep it in your pants. Am I talking nasty? I can't believe this is me, but this is what I'll say. For the woman, for the man, Frank will talk to you. For the woman, this is it. It's not easy to be single and pure. It's not easy. But when you think about what you want to hold in the esteem you want to hold for yourself, that I got married to the one man that I gave my cookie to. I think there's a pride that comes with it, and it's beautiful. So hold it for the sake of that pride.
I want to ask something else based on what you have said. Dr. Lyndzie, there has been a lot of talk as well from women. I love what Grace has talked about, but then there are these women also who come in, they have groups, they have these pages and all that, and they say society should not tell a woman what to do with her body. So they have been pushing a very different narrative and saying this is how men have been controlling women over time, telling the woman that you need to be chaste, but then the men will do whatever they want to do. So now the woman in her liberation, as part of the liberation narrative, that it doesn't matter, you can go on the first date and give yourself out on the first date, who cares, it's your body, it's your choice. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, it's the 21st century, you know. I always say that I'm really looking forward to the time that loyalty, integrity, and morals will come back to fashion.
All right.
Because, I mean, I think we threw out morals, we threw out values, we threw out everything that was good. I mean, please put up for me 1 Peter 4:8. I feel like being religious today. Put up for me 1 Peter 4:8. Yes, yes. And above all things, have fervent love for one another. No. This the one that whatever is pure, whatever is noble, whatever is praiseworthy.
That's Philippians 4:8.
My goodness, you see, that's why we need the pastor. Where are we? Philippians 4:8. Fantastic. Thank you. So finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good report, if there is any virtue, and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. I am looking forward to a time when we will actually think of true things. What's the truth? You know, there's truth versus facts.
Okay.
The fact is, men have been defining women. But what's the truth? Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Whatever is noble. So is it noble for you to go out on a first date and remove your clothes by evening? Is it noble? Think about it. You know, this is a very personal journey.
Right.
At the end of the day, whatever is just, whatever is pure, is it pure for you as a woman? Now that you want to show everybody how liberated you can be because you self-appointed yourself to be the ambassador of liberation. Is it pure? Is it lovely? Is it a good report?
Okay.
Is it? I always say this. One day you will be 45. One day you will be 55. One day you will be 65.
Right.
Is it a good report your grandchildren want to hear about you?
Okay.
And the things you were doing when you were 20, and the things you were doing when you were 25.
But there are those who, you know, they say, well, I'm just in my 20s, I'll get to 40. When I get to 40, I see this sometimes on Twitter.
That's
you know,
true.
I think the other day, it must have been 3 weeks ago or something, I saw one guy, is it the MD, the director, the CEO of Kenya Film Commissions, whatever. So he wrote something, and then so guys were on his case. Then he said to them, listen, one day you're going to be my age. You'll be in your 50s, and you need to be proud when you're there. And they say to him, well, we are not 50 yet. So as long as we are in our 20s, we will do whatever we want to do. When we get there, then we will change into our 50s.
Let me just say something, Pasi.
Yeah.
We are a sum total of our past decisions, past choices,
Right.
and we must live in the consequences of
those.
the choices we make.
All right.
Whether you're 20 or you want to feel that you'll be 20 once. They say what? You only live once. YOLO, hashtag.
Yeah.
Hashtag YOLO, Instagram worthy. I don't know, these funny things people do in
Right.
this age group.
Right.
I'm telling you, the internet never forgets. My Jesus. One day you'll be 50 and you'll want to be the governor of some county. Oh my God. And then there will be somebody who will just put up your photos of the nudity and the things you put on Instagram. So tell me, how cool are you now? Pastor, how cool will they be?
All right, let me move this conversation a bit further. Online, we were having several conversations. There were the definitions of the single. So, Frank, even when we started, you talked about there is the single, the single married, and all this. You want to break that down?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I read her post, on Facebook.
Right.
And I also wanted that, you know, and I was discussing this, and I saw each post had an injection. So I was just trying to, when she's saying, when the post was like, you're dating, you're single, you're this, you're single. So I was saying maybe the injection is blood of Jesus, or trying to, you know. But I look at it from three areas. There is single married, and there is married, right? Single, you can break it into very, very many facets. I would sit back and say, I'm single because I'm not dating anyone.
Okay.
I'll sit back and say, I'm single because I'm not married. I'll say, you know, some people will define it, if you're dating, you're not single and all that stuff. I'm single because I don't owe anybody any explanation. I have freedom and everything that I want to do.
Okay.
So in my space, even if I go around and I sleep and do whatever it is, to me, somebody defines that as being single, right?
Right.
The single married. These are people who got into the marriage institution, and all of a sudden they realize, whoa, this is not what I signed for.
Okay.
And instead of trying to resolve the things within the marriage, they start going outside the marriage. So in the face of everybody else, they are all smiling, they are all glowing. Oh, even it happens in churches, right? Everything is just happening. But now when they go back home, these people don't sleep in the same room. These people don't talk to each other. It's very rough. But outside, you see a different face. So what happens in single married scenario is, in the house, I'm married, but outside, I'm single, so I can easily start, you know, talking to her. As a man, I can sit back and put another small house, mpango or kando house, where I can still get my satisfactions from her. It purely means I'm not really married. I'm single married.
Okay. Okay. And I know that somebody asked a question earlier on, who say, how do you work on your marriage so that you can become married again? Because that person was actually talking from the perspective of the married single, and said, how do you get over the temptation so that you settle in your marriage? You want to go for that, Dr. Lindsay?
How do they get married again? Or
Yes,
are they married?
Based on what Frank has said,
Yes.
and they're talking about married single.
Okay.
So they're like, how do you get back to the place where your passions are now contained within your marriage? Because you're married, but you're out there. How do you get to the place where you're now married again to the same person? Not that you have really ever left, but you are not there.
You left, but you're yeah.
You're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd say is perhaps do an introspective study on yourself. Ask yourself, what pushed you to being single whilst married? There's something that pushed you out.
Right.
For whatever reason. Is it that you have unmet needs? Or is it that you haven't articulated what your needs are? Or is it that you've articulated your needs but your partner or your spouse is not doing them?
Okay.
And there's something I think I saw somebody write, that before you get married, you love your choice, and then after you're married, what is it? Love the choice. This is something about you should love the choice. Yeah. You should love the choice that you made. Yeah, because before it was just let's do this, let's get married. You know, but for that person who is left but never really left, what do you think about counseling? Because I think us being in the 21st century, we really should not be struggling with stigmatization about counseling. And I always say that we don't go for counseling because we have issues. Sometimes just go for counseling to remind you of the successes that you've had.
Maybe if I tell them that Grace is a counselor, they will go.
Perhaps.
Yeah, please come. I will
Grace is
counsel
a
you.
counselor.
And I think I want to say something about that.
Right.
I want to address two things. The reason why you get married, and of course now, before you even get to counseling, because when you come for counseling, I'll ask you, why did you get married in the first place? Getting back to that married status is by just going back to asking yourself, why did we marry? What did I like about you that made me marry you? What was this thing that made me know that you're actually, my spouse or my partner? And now, because we're talking about singlehood, one thing that people miss, and the rate of divorce now is really high, is because of the pressure. We have, like you said, Lindsay, you're 35 almost. someone will say, I'm almost 40, so I'm going to get married to the next man that I see. Because when I had the choice to make, when I had the chance to make the right choice, I was choosy. And I think you highlighted it when you started. We have a fairy tale kind of marriage in our heads, especially for the women. And when a man approaches me and doesn't tick the box, I'll be like, not now. And not now becomes 20 years down the line, and I'm like, oh God, I wish I went to the first one. And so as a woman, because I feel like I'm running out of time, I get into the next marriage, and the man is available. So I will marry for the sake of status, and then when I'm in there, I forget, I run out of reasons why I've married you. So that's why now I'll start looking for, somebody else who I feel this ticks box 1, but didn't tick box 2. So I'll stay with this one for box 1. Then I'll have another box 2. So what happens is I am in a marriage, like he said, but I am single because there are other people ticking my box, whilst my husband or my wife did not tick all of them. But it's good for PR.
Okay.
It's good for PR. So I got married to show people that I got married. Some story I was told about a man who married a woman, beautiful woman, and on their wedding day he said to her, okay, I've married you because my mom wanted me to marry you. Now I'm gay, what will you do?
What?
And it was a church. And you see, that's the thing. I'm running to you because, and to be honest, women want to marry someone who will take care of them.
Yeah.
You call us gold diggers, but for some time it's because we've hustled. Now we want someone who will just take care of us.
Yeah, that's true.
So I will be drawn to a man who has money, not because I really want the money, it's because I just want to stop hustling. Honestly. And so, sorry Frank, so I'll marry you, and then you will give me all the good houses and the jobs and the cars and the money. I will feel nice, but that's where it ends.
That's where it ends.
You only fulfilled one need. I need someone now who will make me laugh because you don't really have a sense of humor. I just married you for your money. Someone else will make me laugh. Someone else will chat me through the night. You know what I mean? So it boils down to, why am I getting married fast?
And it's true, and I think on the point of, you're marrying maybe because of the money. Sometimes what I try to share with my sisters is try and look at the potential in a man.
Yeah.
Because the money might not be there now, but do you know there are men who probably got married or are dating ladies who are doing better than them, and the ladies invested in the men, and the men ended up being certain people in the society. Why? It's because of the potential that was seen initially. But now to the question of the lady, and you realize the lady who's asking that question, she's coming from a point of probably it's something that has been inflicted by a man. Because for her, she's trying to find out, how do I come out of this? The narrative here is she might not do it alone. And when, doctor talked about counseling and therapists and everything else, I know a number of ladies would sit back and say, we want to go for counseling, but how many men sit back and say, yes, I'll join you for counseling?
Wow.
Not so many. So sometimes you even find ladies going for counseling alone. For her, what I would recommend is, you're already probably in a marriage and you have kids, it's sometimes trying to go back to the basics.
Right.
Where did it all start?
Right.
And to sum it up, because her question also links to a teaching to the people who are looking forward to getting there, is, guys, it's just good if also I let you know, when you get married, there's a difference between a church wedding and a Christian wedding. Most of us do church weddings.
Wow.
And it's a tick box. And you see, when you do a church wedding, you're not necessarily a Christian. But for you in your mind, you're feeling, because I've done a church wedding, it is fine. But you're not going to live the Christian ways. So where does the rain start beating you? It starts way back. Now that is one. Number two, when you get to Pastor Chris and he wants to ordain your marriage, please note, you've come with your tuxedo. She has a beautiful gown. The only two things you'll get from that altar are words and faith. He will connect you. But what is inside that tuxedo? If there was some stupidity, you didn't see it, my friend, you're taking that home. If there was some laziness in that gown, you're taking it home. So for the people, and I'm linking this to the question, if you're aspiring to that direction, by the time you say you're tying a knot, by the time you say, I'm going to Pastor Chris to all this to happen, make sure whatever is inside that tuxedo, you have vetted it, you've confirmed it, because it's what is going to eat you up, and then you start asking certain questions.
I want to ask about, even as we begin to wind up now, I want to ask about the role of social media for single people. Before, when we were growing up, if you need to meet anybody, you have to actually meet them, walk there, knock their door, jump over a fence, the gate, send somebody or something. Today, you have your phone like this. You're seeing all these very nice profile photos, both male and female, and there's so many options over here. Is this contributing to indecisiveness for some people? Because they're looking at, okay, I'm looking at Dr. Lyndzie here today, then tomorrow, okay, I met Grace, let me see that one, then I see somebody else, so I start trying to chat each one of them to the point where I cannot even make a decision. So I'm actually enjoying the attention of all these people that I can access just because they're at the tip of my finger. Do you think that plays a role? Dr. Lyndzie?
Of course, Pasi. I mean, social media, I say, is both a good thing and a bad thing, if you don't use it responsibly. It's a good thing because, now we are all connected. We are a small village, I could say, Like, how did I meet you, Pasi? Social media. I mean, I always see Grace Ekirapa on NTV. She's here live in person.
Right.
And we talk a bit on social media as well. So you see, social media is a good thing.
Right.
But with anything, you need to be responsible.
Right.
Your actions, you have to be responsible with the actions that you decide to take.
Right.
And to answer your question, I think, yes, it could contribute because, today there's a Moses, tomorrow there's a James, the other day there's a Brian, they're all these kind of people. And so, yes, you can feel so good in the inside, getting the attention, whilst, kwa ground vitu ni very different. Brian, that guy called Brian. Okay. there's a thing I wrote, and then some guys are not very happy with me. Yeah, there's this stereotypical thing of Brian, Mike, keep off, yeah? So Brian is over there texting you at night, and you're feeling so nice as a girl, and you're getting all the attention. Brian is texting you, and the woman is there next to, the wife or whoever is there. So there's a lot of, social media is good because it will connect you, but also you need to be decisive as a person. And I think I will piggyback on what Frank said. You first of all need to be very self-aware.
Okay.
He talked about a vision board. So whether you're a man or a woman, you have to have a vision board. I mean, you cannot, everybody was born with a purpose.
Right.
So are you achieving your purpose? And the person who you want to bring on board, are they going to help you to achieve your purpose? Whether man or woman, So yes, to answer your question, the answer is yes. It could lead you to be indecisive, but also I have seen people meet on social media and get married and have stayed married.
All right.
So it all boils down to who are you attracting, who is this person that you're talking to, are they aligning to your vision, are they going to help you fulfill your purpose, so that's what I could say to that.
All right. Of course, we cannot have all the time. So I'm just going to have our guests today to bring their closing thoughts. We probably need to have this discussion again because there's so many angles to it. We can't really get into. I didn't even get into the questions, but let me just take one. There was a question by Reinhard. There was this one question by Reinhard. He said, "What do you say about those who are single because they've not publicly declared the one, but they have 10 people that they call nice names?" And then secondly, is it possible for someone not to be able to stay without being in a relationship? Like some people just can't. Those who, if they break up today, tomorrow they're in another relationship.
Okay.
So maybe we tackle these two and then we will get our final thoughts. What do you say about those who are single because they have not publicly declared, but they've got all kinds of people? Grace,
I think that one is the kind that is weighing options.
Yeah.
It's like having a vision board, like Frank said, but of women.
Yeah, true.
who all the pictures on the board. Every day you come, you're like, okay, so who fits me? It's really shallow. It's really shallow.
Oh my goodness.
But there could be a deeper issue. There could be a deeper issue. Maybe this person is just afraid of being alone. They've grown up, or maybe they've had some, underlying issues that have caused them to, not be able to stand by themselves. They just can't see themselves alone. And it's unfortunate because if this person decides to ever settle down, he will carry this to his marriage, like Frank said. The stupidity will follow. And what I'd say is this person needs to seek guidance and of course just internalize and go back to who am I and who am I when all these ladies are not there? Yeah, and not just ladies. Sometimes it could be friends. You can't just be by yourself because you feel like there's a demon that will chase you. You know that fear. You need to address that demon. And for this other question of people who can't just stay by by themselves, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. There's always a vacuum that someone else is feeling, and that vacuum is what you need to address. It's not the people. And for this man or woman, because it happens both sides, not just with men, it also happens with women. There are women who can't keep one man. They need different men for different things, and it's the same thing. There's a vacuum they're feeling, and there's a void that is on the inside that only needs to be addressed by the person themselves, and they need to be aware of it. Self-awareness is very important. Identify you have a problem and seek help, because having those men and women, one day those women will find men to marry them. They will go. Who will you remain with?
That's true.
It will be too late.
Sorry, before Frank, you came in because I can tell you want to say something about that. I still want to ask something about us 10,
Yes.
Based on what Grace has said. She said, probably this person has underlying issues. But could there also be the element of they cannot believe that people actually pay attention to them? Like a kid who has the remote control and then realizes you can move from NTV to Citizen to KTN. So they're so
Blows their
excited
mind.
about that
Yeah.
because probably they also grew up with rejection.
Yes.
Then they're getting to a certain level now. They can actually get attention. And so they're so excited about this attention
Yeah.
because they grew up, they were deprived of it. Could that also be something about it?
And actually, that's what I was going to say. And it's because, and probably from a man's perspective, what would happen in this scenario is there's a tendency of men sitting back and feeling that the more maybe ladies you sleep with, they just want to validate yourself as a man. You feel like, let me check if I'm still in the market. All right? And it's something that as you continue doing, and a number of people know, it's because some people go back and start shouting about it, and that's why you hear things like the boys' clubs or whatever it is, because these people are seeking validation in their all wrong places. And to them, it satisfies their manhood because I'm a man, and that's why I'm doing this and this. What they don't realize is, as you keep on aging and as time goes by, it will get to some points, because for you to play this kind of game, my friend, you need heavy resources. So a number of these guys are in debt because of just trying to do some of these things. So yes, there is some background issues attached to it, but again, there are people where it's an ego thing, all right, where you feel, but until you go back to your conscious and deliberate self and ask yourself, where am I going? I'm going to have girls, leave alone even boys. I always tell my best friends, some of them, you tell me, would you allow your best friend to marry your sister? And then think about it, because you know your best friend and his behaviors, right? So there might be those underlying issues, but you just come to the point of realization that there's a dead end. To come to a point, you can't move anywhere.
All right.
Yeah.
And Dr. Lindsay, now, what about this other group? I know Grace has touched on it very well. Your take on those guys who just cannot stay without being in a relationship?
They're running away from themselves. I talked about something some time back, and I say that coronavirus, you can look at it as it, having stagnated your economy and all that, but you can also look at it as a gift. This is the opportune moment where you are working from home, staying at home. Take the time to meet yourself. Like actually go to the kitchen, make yourself a cup of coffee, and invite yourself into your own meeting.
All right.
Meet yourself. I mean, I think so many people are so afraid of the reality of who they actually are because they may not like themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so why are you forcing somebody else, another human being, to tolerate you if you cannot tolerate yourself?
All right.
And that's why maybe you are moving from one relationship to another, or you have to have like 15 at the same time, or 10 at the same time, because you don't want that space. So you want to have Mary, then there's Jane, then there's who, then there's Brian, there's who. I mean, it's crazy. And I like what the Bible says, that Adam was single, And then God looked around. I like that. I like that verse. Please put it up. It's Genesis. Today I'm feeling very churchy. Put it up for me. Where God says that he looked around and he saw that it was not good for
It's 2:18.
for 2:18, Genesis 2:18. And the Lord God said, it is not good for a man to be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Please do it in the NIV version. I like what it says about it being suitable. Fantastic. So the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable, guys, suitable for him. You cannot be a helper to everybody.
All right.
And that helper has to be suitable for that.
Okay.
So there's no way you can be suitable for 10 people.
Right.
Yeah, please, wake up from your, it's a facade. You can't, you cannot be suitable for everybody per se.
All right. So our closing thoughts. Is it possible to live single? Is it possible to be effective while single? Is singleness a curse? Is it something to be stigmatized about? For all the people who are out there who are single, and sometimes they bear this pressure. In fact, some of them had said 2020 is the year before COVID-19 happened.
Yeah.
They were hoping. Their guys, I think, must even be depressed because their weddings were planned to be around May and April and all of that. And some of them just feel like, life has stopped. Yet our discussion here today is that you can absolutely just live life while we're single. Grace, your closing thoughts today.
Well, I'm going to speak from experience because I've been single. I was single for a while. Did you say people who are not married are single? I'm kidding. I've had, the most interesting singlehood. By single, I mean not married,
Right.
but in relationships. I think that's still single.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you from my own experience, I feel like 2020 brought me to myself, like Lyndzie is saying. I turned a year older this year, and my mind changed. It's like I knew I told God to give me a gift. I didn't think it was that random. Like eyes open, and I realized I had been putting myself in such a cocoon, and God too. And I realized my standards didn't need to like bend for me to get a man. They didn't need to. I just needed to position myself.
I like that.
And my positioning was in knowing that, like you said, Adam was created for a purpose. And even before Eve was brought, there was a purpose for Adam. He was naming animals.
Right.
He wasn't idle, looking for a woman. He wasn't waiting to be found.
He didn't even know he needed a
He
woman.
didn't even know he needed one. And so I realized I need to be busy doing what I need to be doing, and the man will show up. God will bring it. And no one knows me more than God does. I have a list I've not kissed many frogs, but they say kiss many frogs until you find the prince. That's a lie. You don't need to kiss many frogs for you to find a prince. So for the girl out there, I'll tell you from experience. One, let your idea of a man be found in God, not in human beings, not in society, not in social media. Social media is very shallow. Today I'll have dark skin, tomorrow I'll be light. You'll be confused. So if you're really looking for something that you've seen on social media, then it means your thinking is very shallow, and it needs an in-depth of yourself. You need to find yourself. And they say you need to go for counseling before you get married to find out about the other person. I think you need to go as a single person.
I like that.
Because there are baggages you will carry that will draw you away from the man you should marry or the woman you should marry because you didn't know. So find help for yourself first before you involve another human being into your mess. Find yourself. Go for counseling. A therapist will help you to dig into your known, the subconscious. Dig into those deep things that you don't want to address. Address them. And then once you're confident, then you can bring another human being. And you'll be confident to move. So one, find help for yourself. Go for counseling. Find therapy. Surround yourself with people who have the right kind of thinking. And above all, let your standard be found in God. That man, take him to Jesus. God knows the best man. He will find him if he's in Australia, if he's in Kogalo, if he's in wherever he is. God will bring him, and God will bring her for the man. So, yeah, stop looking at things from the eyes of a man. Look at them from the eyes of God. That's all.
Okay, Frank.
I
Do you have
think
a book? You should write a book because you write a lot. You should have a book.
I told him that I like picking quotes. So, guys, I think a consultant is somebody you hire and give him your watch to tell you what the time is.
Whoa.
Right? The fact that it is possible for you to be single, and for the many men who are out there, I think there's a number of reasons why you're single, or why we are single, or some of us are single. It is because and I always call it socialization. Most of the time, when we go out to ask questions, we usually know the answers, but you just want to double check.
Right.
If you think of it in hindsight, somebody will say, do you believe that I can be single and pure? Chances are, I know what I'm doing. So we tend to ask questions just to try and check. And that's why I always say a consultant is somebody you give your watch to tell you what the time is. So it's time for you to go back, and to what Grace has said, go back to your conscious and deliberate session. You can be single even at 40, at 50. It's up to you to pick where the right time is supposed to be. But again, if I look at myself, I've been single and I've been in relationships at the same time. I've made mistakes. Some of the challenges I ended up facing is somebody's looking at it and say, oh, Frank Molla, he works here, he does this, he cannot be single. So sometimes, admittedly, I would also, like you were saying on the side, you'd easily miss certain buses because people have already stereotyped and said, he cannot be single.
Right.
So they start to say certain things. And then you end up struggling with that and wondering, why is it like every time you meet somebody, the perception is these guys cannot be single, right? And that's what I'm saying. Yes, you can be single, but there has to be a deliberate, and I keep on saying deliberate and conscious session. Go back and have time with yourself. By the time you're going into a marriage, guys, you're not going to find happiness in that woman.
All right.
Go 100%, and then your happiness in that marriage should just be used to be, it's a light on the other person.
Okay.
You're sharing your happiness both sides. So go back. It's at the end of the day, it's your choice. You have to decide which direction you want to go. There's no right or wrong answer. I always like saying that, and I always like closing by, my right is not the only right. Just keep searching, keep finding, and eventually you'll get to the deeper details, and you should get out of that hole.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Lyndzie.
All right, so for me, I would say a couple of things. First of all, I would say that marriage is a gift. Singlehood is also a gift. In fact, if you would only understand, deeply fathom how big a gift singlehood is, you would not be hosting pity parties in your spaces as a single person. Why? Because you can flourish both in your singlehood and flourish even in your marriage. You see, why you're being stereotyped, as Frank is saying, is because perhaps you are a successful single person.
Right.
And so society has tagged success to be only found in a marriage setup. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because marriage needs work, and even successful singles, you still need work. So there's work on both ends of the stick. Yeah. Another thing I will say is, I just want to emphasize on what Grace said. As a single person, it would be important. Perhaps consider have a life coach, have a professional coach if you want to go into that direction. Get a few mentors, a spiritual mentor, a life mentor. Somebody who guides you in making decisions, either for your life or for a relationship. You could even have a relationship coach, like somebody who you just go to when you're thinking about getting into a relationship and you want to know, there's actually something called the rules of engagement. It is actually there. It's a movie, I think, but there's actually rules for engagement. So if you want to go that direction, then do that, You can flourish in your singlehood. I think I cannot overemphasize that enough, And you can have your own vision board, as Frank said, and actually divide it. At the top there, write your name. So like for me, I write Lyndzie. Then break it down into body, soul, spirit. Under body, write this down. Exercise, food, sleeping. Under soul, write mind, soul, emotions. Under spirit, write spiritual nourishment, relationship with God, walk with God. You can also add another one if you want. You can add career if you want to add your career. Then under career, write where you want to be in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you know. And so all this is you as a person, you know. So first of all, there's something Grace said, and I want to finish with that. And she said that, of course, you would get sexually excited because hormones are working.
Right.
For the men, it's a testosterone. For the women, we have estrogen and progesterone working as an interplay all through the cycle. So when that time comes, what are you doing about it? Go for a jog. Because what you're looking for is a release of endorphins and dopamine. These are and serotonin. So these are good feel hormones.
Okay.
You can express that in other ways. You don't have to look for the quickest way out by looking for some person or a lady or a guy, you know. So what are you exercising? Are you keeping you know, healthy relationships? What kind of friends do you have around you? Because I always say that if I get 5 of your friends, I can easily tell who you are. Right. So what kind of friends are you keeping as a single person? Right. You know, what are you doing in your free time? I mean, there are so many people out there that have written books that need to be read by you. Let me start by, this is the time I will advertise. I'll advertise Grace Ekirapa. She has written the Diary of a Praying Woman. It's an amazing, amazing book. I mean, you can journal, and then she's put for you some prayers to do. I will also advertise the Rev. Chris Atemo here. You've written a couple of books, right. And I'm currently reading his book, The Leprous General. I mean, people, I need to also advertise. Reverend Ken Aringo has written a book called The Software of Sex. Christians, especially Christians, yeah? You know that sex word is like, ooh. What are we talking about? Please go and read that book. He's an ordained minister of the gospel. Demon chasing has been anointed. Please go read books. Yeah? So what are you doing with your free time as a single person? So many people out there have written good books. Take your time, read books. Keep friends that will encourage you in this work. If you are a Christian and you want to walk in the way of purity as a single person, then have accountability partners or accountability friends, you know. There is so much I can say, but I mean, you can flourish as a single person because only a single person who is happy will make a happy married person.
All right. And the word I pick from each and every one of them is the word intentionality.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing that I keep on picking up, intentionality. You've got to be intentional about your goals, intentional about your growth. You've got to be intentional about everything that you do. And if you were, then you can achieve and attain the levels that you desire. That nothing is just going to happen either because you're single or you're married. You have to get yourself in order to become successful in relationships, to be happy with yourself, to be happy in a marriage. Whichever way, you will have to make decisions. And this is what most people do not like to do. So they just wish, you know, they'll find a way out very quickly, touch a button, and their whole world and their whole space and their whole environment changes, and they move from being miserable to happy. They move from, you know, being depressed to just being a happy person. I've had a lot being said over here about life coaches and counseling and talking to people. All of this is about intentionality. And anything you do for yourself, like I would say that when you buy a book, you're investing in yourself. It's not an expense. So anything that you do, every investment you make in yourself is helping you to become a better person. So you can actually live successfully as a single person, even before you get married. Do not let anybody stigmatize the fact that you were single. Frank has told us you can go all the way to 50 or 60, whichever way it is. Grace has told us about the underlying issues that come in over there. And Dr. Lyndzie, she didn't share her story here, but she writes a lot on social media concerning the matters of relationships as well. And talked about, you know, you can just decide to become single. And there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody. You don't have to. But well, we come to the end of the talk, or rather for this season, because we can't really get into everything concerning it. There were so many questions we couldn't get into, and we'll have this talk another time. We'll have this conversation again another time. But for today, we've come to the end of it. I appreciate each and every one of you that joined in, tuned in, those of you who shared on your walls. Host the watch party even after this. Just help us host the watch party. later on and let somebody else tune in. Share the link as well with your friends, with your relatives, your colleagues, or even these guys who inbox you, and the gals who inbox you. Share the link with them. You might just deliver somebody and help them get their act together. You need to talk to us. Follow us on social media. Follow us on social media. The platforms are at NBCC Kenya, on Twitter at NBCC_Kenya, YouTube and Facebook also. Subscribe on YouTube, the Covenant channel, and then on Facebook, the Covenant channel as well. Follow me, J Atemo, on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, Facebook as well. Well, tomorrow is Sunday, so tomorrow we've got a Sunday services, 8:30, 10:30, and 3 p.m. online. Then every Monday we talk about money on Commonwealth at 3. We've got a discussion with pastors and ministers at 8 p.m. That's called the Shepherd Staff. On Tuesdays we've got a service at 3 called the Victory Service, Winds of Worship, when we just have music and worship. On Wednesdays, on Thursdays, School of Faith. Friday at 8 p.m. we're on Zoom with young people, the Quiver. And then of course next Saturday again we join you on the Saturday Starter. You want to be a blessing and to give towards the ministry and even to the programs, the numbers are right there. 655-125 for pay bill, plus 254-721-556-159 for World Remit and Wave or direct M-Pesa. You can do that, and we will be glad that you did, and we appreciate you as well. Well, this has been the Saturday Starter. I am J Atemo. God bless you. Have a very lovely evening.
Praise the Lord. So put on your dancing shoes, and we want to say to the Lord today, glory, glory, hallelujah. God Almighty, you are faithful to the end.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. God Almighty, you are faithful.
Say it again.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
God Almighty.
God Almighty, you are faithful to the end.
You have all power and all wisdom. You have all riches. You reign in majesty, created all things, and you were
King of the gods and the Lord of
eternal God,
eternal God and the great I am.
seated in heaven.
Seated in heaven, but ruling the earth. You have all power
And all wisdom.
and all wisdom. You have all riches.
You reign in majesty,
Reign in majesty, created all things, and you
King of the flood,
King of the floods and the Lord of
eternal God,
eternal God and the great I am.
seated in heaven.
Seated in heaven, but ruling the earth.
Glory, glory,
Glory, glory,
hallelujah.
hallelujah.
Almighty,
God Almighty,
you are faithful.
are faithful to the end. Glory, glory,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah.
God Almighty,
God Almighty,
you are faithful.
are faithful to the end.
Second verse.
Your word is true,
Changes not
changes not. You are
and eternal. Author of salvation,
salvation, magnificent
King of the flood,
King of the